Hey, welcome back to my channel. Now that Thanksgiving is over and everybody's on to Christmas, I figured I'd review a few Christmas horror movies. Um, I'm probably going to do Black Christmas, definitely 1974 Black Christmas, not the remakes. Um, Krampus and Gremlins, but I'm going to start off with 1984's Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, when this film was released, it caused a lot of controversy. Parents were not thrilled with the posters at cinema with depicting Santa Claus climbing out of a chimney holding an axe. And as you can see, that could be a problem when your kid sees that. That's not a great thing, but the poster is pretty cool. And you saw it before the review started. That's the main picture before my review starts. It is a cool poster, but I can see how that would have caused a stir, especially in the 80s. This is around the time where there was lists of bands that were satanic worshipers, supposedly, and all that craziness that went on in the 80s with that stuff. Well, anyway, a little trivia before we get into it, though. This movie had come out the same weekend as the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And for the first weekend, it actually made more money than Nightmare on Elm Street, which is kind of hard to believe. Because this movie's all right, but it's nowhere near in the class of Nightmare on Elm Street. But it did make more. It outgrossed Nightmare on Elm Street for opening weekend. Now, this movie was only in the theaters, I think, for 2 weeks. With all the controversy, parents, a big stink was going on about it in the media and everything. Siskel and Ebert, on their show, when they reviewed the movie, read the director and producer's names out loud and told them they should be ashamed of themselves for this garbage movie they put out. So there was a lot of heat on the movie, and they yanked it about 2 weeks after it was in, and then I think it went to like secondary theaters, like, Grindhouses, stuff like that. So this movie never really truly got a proper release, or never got a chance to live out its days in first run cinemas. Well, anyway, this movie, I'll give some spoilers out. The movie's been out since '84. This movie starts off with this little boy going with his parents and his baby sister to this home to visit his grandfather. It's Christmas Eve, and they're going to see his grandfather, who's supposedly catatonic by all rights. And he's living in this home. And when they get there, they're visiting with him. And the old man's just sitting there in a chair, staring off into the distance, not letting not giving any signs that he knows they're even there. And the doctor comes in and wants to talk to the parents. So the parents go off with the baby and leave the son there with his grandfather, which is kind of, you can tell the kid's a little freaked out by it because there's this old man that he doesn't really know, never had a conversation with. I mean, it's his grandfather, and he loves him, obviously, just because of that. And kids don't question love. But this guy looks creepy, and he's just sitting there staring off into space. And not even 30 seconds after the parents walk away with the doctor and they're out of, hearing distance, the grandfather looks at the kid and basically tells him something awful about Santa Claus coming. He's not going to get anything for Christmas because he's been naughty, and Santa Claus is going to kill him. Well, obviously this freaks the kid out, and when the parents come back, the old man goes right back into being pretending to be catatonic. They never explain if he really is. And this is really the only scene he's in. You don't see him the rest of the movie. The kid thinks about it later, like flashbacks, but he's really not in the rest of the movie. So the parents leave. And on the side of the road, they find this guy dressed as Santa Claus, and they stop to see if he needs help. Well, the guy ends up killing the husband and sexually assaulting his mother and killing her, and then kills his baby sister. He witnesses this from the side of the road. He ran and hid under some bushes on the side of the road and saw all this take place. And obviously, this young kid messed him up, and he ended up being in an orphanage after that. He has no family left besides his grandfather, who's supposedly catatonic, so they send him to an orphanage. And the mother superior at this orphanage is very tough on him. For whatever reason, she picks on this kid during the movie. They show it. She's actually unnecessarily mean to this kid. It's unwarranted. It's just very strange. I think it was just a plot device. The writing wasn't that great, so they just made this woman a complete bitch to this kid. She's out of control, over the top, just mean to this kid. Which adds to the fact where he's already had this traumatic experience, and he has to deal with this lady who's just absolutely terrible to him. So if the movie fast forwards a little bit, and all of a sudden he's an adult, and he's a big, strong kid, young man. And the one nun who's really nice to him takes him into town and gets him a job at this toy store so he can earn some money. They don't really tell what time of year this is. It looks like springtime, but they never really say. And the store manager hires him. And all is well as time goes on. They kind of like, it's like a montage showing him working there. And they play some cheesy 80s music. And he starts getting along with his coworkers, and he seems very happy. And then all of a sudden it's Christmas. And all of a sudden his demeanor changes. He just gets quiet again, more reserved, less outgoing. And then the store manager approaches him about dressing up as Santa on Christmas Eve for the kids. And he definitely doesn't want to do it, and he starts getting flashbacks from when he was a kid, what happened to his parents and his baby sister. He begrudgingly says, I'll do it. And they show him on Christmas Eve with the kids coming in, and he's kind of quiet, but he gets through it. And then afterwards, when they lock the door and it's time, they have like a Christmas party. And they get alcohol out and, some food. Meanwhile, this girl who he kind of has a crush on who works at the store kind of gets sexually assaulted in the warehouse by his coworker, who's been kind of a dick to him this whole time. Again, unnecessarily, like, people are just being dicks for no reason whatsoever, at least not shown on film. Unless there's deleted scenes depicting a reason for them to be a dick to this kid, they don't show it. And he walks in on it, and the guy starts giving him a hard time telling him to get the hell out of there. And the scene builds, and he ends up killing the guy. And the girl who didn't do anything, like this guy snaps from all the trauma over his life. And the girl's like, thank you for helping me. And he starts saying, you were naughty, you must pay. And he ends up killing her too. And he kills everybody else in the store. He actually shoots one woman who works in the store. Actually, you'll recognize her if you've seen Halloween 4. She was one of the doctors in the ambulance in the beginning of the movie. So you'll recognize some of the people. I don't know their names, but you'll recognize some of them. They were in some of the Halloween movies. As a matter of fact, the one guy who shows up played the DJ in Halloween 6. That shows up and is kind of a dick to the kids at the college party that they're having. Yeah, so you'll recognize a few people in there if you've seen those movies. But so anyway, he goes on a rampage and starts killing people who he thinks is naughty. And eventually he starts making his way back to the orphanage because he wants to kill Mother Superior. By this time, the cops are on to him, and they're tracking him back, and then the climax happens, and I won't ruin it if you haven't seen it, but you can probably guess what happens in these kind of movies in the 80s. Funny enough, this movie was directed by a gentleman named Charles E. Sellers, Jr., and he was so squeamish around the kill scenes when they were filming them that he refused to do them, and the editor had to step in and film those scenes. Which is funny about this guy made Silent Night Deadly Night in 1984. Now, if you go on IMDb and look at his career later on, the gentleman has since passed away. But later on, he was producing biblical shows for TV, which is kind of funny. Early in his career, he was making a movie called Silent Night Deadly Night where there was a lot of controversy. And then later on, he was making biblical movies. It's kind of funny. But is this movie a great movie? No. This isn't Black Christmas is a great horror movie and a great horror Christmas movie. It's okay. You can have, if you're a horror fan, it's definitely mean-spirited and sleazy, but you can have fun with it. The kills are pretty good overall. It's not shot the best. The acting's definitely won't win any awards for sure. It's a little low budget affair. I think the budget was around $800,000. I mean, they had some bucks in 1984, money, but it wasn't, it wasn't a studio film. It was an independent film. It ended up being released by TriStar, and I would give it a 6 out of 10. I can watch it and have some fun with it for what it is. I think definitely later on in the 90s, Tales from the Crypt did an episode with Larry Drake playing Santa Claus, an escaped lunatic dressed as Santa Claus. And, it's only a half-hour episode, but it's one of my favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes. I think it's called Naughty or Nice. I think that's what it is. And that's definitely a very cool, better version of this movie, kind of. But you can watch Silent Night Deadly Night and have fun with it. Now, there's a ton of sequels to Silent Night Deadly Night. I've only ever seen 2 and 3. And then there was some crossover episodes between that and Demonic Toys. I've never seen them. 2 and 3 are not good. They're worse than this one. I mean, this one's watchable and you can have a decent amount of fun with it. Those other ones are just trash. They're not worth watching, honestly. But this one's worth checking out if you've never seen it. For all its controversies, it's not that bad of a movie, honestly, in terms of gore. I've seen more violent movies. I mean, it does get pretty violent, but it's not the most violent thing I've ever seen. But for back then, considering what Santa Claus doing, a guy dressed as Santa Claus doing a killing, I can see how it stirred some controversy. But yeah, give it a 6 out of 10. If you've never seen it, check it out. It's especially if you're a horror fan, it's worth it. It's worth a shot checking it out. But that's it for me. I will be back soon with a Black Christmas review and some other ones. Have a nice day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.